Another loss. We did it. Woo! The Vancouver Canucks losing 3-2 to the Boston Bruins here on a Sunday where our time could have been better spent doing literally anything else. It was just a rough go. The Canucks go up a goal. They go up another goal twice. They have two 1-goal leads in this game. Go into the third period with a lead and they blow it. And once again, as it has been all season long, the penalty kill lets the team down again. And I feel like we've had like 6 or 7 games where the Canucks have lost solely based on the penalty kill. Think of where this team would be if the penalty kill worked, right? We're probably talking about a team that has maybe 7 more points in the standings. Not a playoff team by any means, but definitely one that is a little bit more in the mix at least. So the Vancouver Canucks sitting firmly, comfortably at the very, very bottom of the Pacific Division, with only the New York Islanders, the Ottawa Senators, the Montreal Canadiens, and the Arizona Coyotes beneath them. The Canucks are the 5th worst team in the NHL, but by some metrics, you might say they're the worst, especially when you look at teams like Arizona, who's basically tanking on purpose, Ottawa, who is also kind of tanking on purpose. Montreal kind of fell apart, but they made some moves today. They go out and they make changes. They fire basically their entire executive staff. And then here's the Canucks. 14 points in 22 games so far this season. I've done the pace calculations a few times in the past. I don't want to even bother doing the math right now, but I think last game they were at like a 55-point pace. I assume that goes down a little bit to like a 54-point pace at this point. Look, things are really bad for this Vancouver team right now. Bad to the point where the Vancouver media is at war with this Sikaris versus IMAC Captain America Civil War thing going on here. There's rumors that are being pushed by Evander Kane's agent that he wants to come back to Vancouver, and that San Jose is willing to eat 50% of a salary on a trade. And there's such a mess going on, and that doesn't even go into the fact of Travis Green basically having one foot out the door, but still having to answer for all of the issues for this team in what has seemed like a pretty Bush League move from the organization. So all of that sort of other stuff, the Kane, Green, IMAX, Sikaris stuff, we're going to talk a lot more about tomorrow night on Canucks After Dark, Mondays, 10 p.m. on the Canucks After Dark YouTube channel. I recommend you go subscribe to that if you want more in-depth stuff on that. But for right now, we're going to talk about this game in particular for some reason. And it's a game that halfway through the first period, the Canucks, in a 1-1 game, I was thinking, I'm not having fun watching this. I don't want to be watching this. And then in the second period, I kind of had some fun and enjoyed the second period. Then the third period, I had that same thought again where I was like, I'm not really having fun here. And that seems to be sort of the direction that things are going. So let's break down the game pretty quickly. Pluses, minuses, you guys know the whole deal, and your thoughts once we get to them. It's Ullmark, Halak, 2 goalies who had kind of interesting games. The fact that the Canucks only get 2 goals on Linus Ullmark, who looked pretty bad tonight, is pretty rough, but we'll get into that later. Canucks go to an early power play. They score their first road power play goal in over a month. They mentioned on the broadcast the last time the Vancouver Canucks scored a power play goal on the road was October 23rd in Seattle. That's a long time ago. That's over a month. The Canucks have played like, I don't know how many road games they played, but like 8 since then. Then they had like the 6-game road trip, and then they're 3 games into this one. So like not a lot of games that the Canucks hadn't scored a power play goal on the road, but they score this kind of greasy one. Tanner Pearson trying to bang it in. It like slides past Ullmark. He fails to control it. It just gets across the line. It's 1-0 for the Canucks. And then 2 minutes later, the Bruins tie it. And it's Anton Bleed, who I had literally never heard of before this game. He had 2 career goals coming in something like 46 games. He gets his 3rd of his career, first of the season, and it's not a good goal. He skates into the Canucks zone. He's kind of in a battle, and he just shoots a long wrist shot from above the faceoff circle, like 50 feet away, and Jaro Halak just missed it, and it's 1-1. So later on, Canucks get a power play. Tyler Mott takes a stick to the face. At least that's what they call it. I don't know if he actually took a stick to the face, but a couple good chances, and they finally break through again. Second power play goal of the game. It's Connor Garland, rocket of a slap shot. Tanner Pearson with a great screen, but it gets challenged for offside. Niels Höglander didn't drag the back foot well enough, so it comes back, and it is still 1-1, and that's the score after the first period. Shots in the first were 11-10 for Boston, pretty even in that respect, and it's 1-1. Canucks are still in this game. We go to the second period, and the Bruins score 23 seconds in, but it's waved off as Thomas Nosek, with a beautiful soccer goal, kicks it from the left to the right. Great touch, great finish, but of course you can't do that in the NHL, so it doesn't count. Canucks go to the power play with about 13 minutes to go in the second period. That got killed off easily. Kyle Burroughs gets a really good chance to score. He sort of goes in down the left wing, goes to the backhand, tries to go 5-hole, and Ullmark straight up misses this one. It goes 5-hole and hits the post and goes out. I think it was Horvat who tried to bang it in after, but his stick got tied up. Could have been a whole different game if Kyle Burroughs was just like an inch over to the left, and that's a goal. And then Garland gets one that counts. 7.5 minutes to go. This is another just weak goal. Sort of sticks and bodies all over the place. Garland just sort of slides it at the net, and it just goes through. Ullmark's too slow to react. It goes through his 5-hole. And it's 2-1 Vancouver. So 2 bad goals against Ullmark this game. Almost a bad one by Burroughs. Ullmark wasn't great, but I mean, if you look at his stats, you see, he let in 3 goals on 38 shots. That's a pretty good night. Or 2 goals on 38 shots. Sorry. But he didn't look that great. But the Canucks made him look good. So we go to the third period. The Shorty decides to jinx the team by saying the Vancouver Canucks are 4-0-0 when leading after 2, or maybe it was Garrett that said that. So the Canucks 4-0 after leading after 2, which is kind of impressive in its own right. The Canucks in 21 games leading up to this game had only led after 2 periods 4 times. That's pretty bad in its own. But the Canucks get an early power play, thanks to a really good play by Niels Höglander, who almost had a breakaway if this hook doesn't happen, and they do literally nothing on this power play. The Bruins get a power play as Höglander sort of gives one back, takes a tripping penalty. Tyler Mott gets a shorthanded breakaway, can't score, and then the Bruins score. It's David Pastrnak in the faceoff circle. He hits the post. I thought it went in, and I haven't looked at the replay, but it really looked like it went in. And then everyone's confused, looking around, looking at the goalie. No one knows what's going on, and Marchand picks it up and scores while no one's paying attention to make it 2-2. So the game's tied, and what do the Canucks do? They take another penalty. It's Oliver Ekman-Larsson late in the third with a dumb penalty. He just rides bleed into the boards, a good boarding call. It's only 2 minutes, which I think might have been a little bit gracious, but the refs knew the Canucks only needed 2 minutes to let one in, and the penalty kill's hemmed in the entire time. They don't clear the puck once, a minute in, where they kept everything to the outside decently well, but then Kyle Burroughs in the corner. Kyle Burroughs not normally killing penalties, but with Oliver Ekman-Larsson off the ice for the penalty, he's out there, and he just gets beat by Brad Marchand. Just a filthy toe drag down below the goal line, left Burroughs completely out of it, basically making it a 5-on-3. Marchand goes backdoor, and it's Pastrnak who scores to make it 3-2. So the Canucks pull the goalie. There's a scrum in front of the Boston net with 45 seconds to go. Puck Colson's like spearing it, tries to get it through the goalie's legs. Whistle goes, so it doesn't count. John Garrett noted that it looked like Derek Forbert literally just shoved the net off. Crazy that that's not a penalty, but Demko leaning into the post a couple weeks ago was. But I digress. But again, they're not going to call that. Whatever. So then Boston goes the other way. It's Bergeron from Marchand on the empty net, but Travis Green challenges it for offside, and it was offside. So it ends up being 3-2. The final score made a difference if you were betting on the puck line tonight. But other than that, didn't do too much because with 12 seconds left, the Canucks wasted it and got nothing going there. So this takes the Vancouver Canucks. What are they? What's the Canucks record now? Is it 6-14-2? Yeah. The Vancouver Canucks are 6-14-2. 6 wins, 16 losses. They have not won a game. When was their last win? Was it the Dallas game? I keep saying this, but was it actually the Dallas game? Have they lost? No, they beat who'd they beat the other day? They beat the Jets like a week and a half ago. God, it feels like forever. But the Canucks have lost, now officially, 9 of their last 10. That Stars game was 11 games ago. And So in their last 10 games, they have lost all of them except one win against the Jets. They go to 0-3 on this road trip that they basically had to go 4-1 on if they wanted to make any sort of momentum to get back in on this season. And with Seattle winning a game last night, that moved them above the Canucks with 15 points in 21 games. And the Vancouver Canucks have the worst record in the Pacific Division by a long shot. They have a -22 goal differential, and they've played 22 games. It's not good. And any way you spin it, it's not good. So let's go into pluses, minuses. Pluses. The first plus is this might be good for the lottery. We are in November, and we're talking lottery. Isn't that fun? I'm going to do a spin right now. Sim the lottery. The Vancouver Canucks drop a spot to 5th. All right, that was fun. I guess that's something we have to look forward to. Draft season will be fun, but it means we have to suffer through the next 5 months of this Vancouver Canucks season. Connor Garland gets a plus for me. Basically 2 goals tonight. The one shot on the power play that didn't count because of the Höglander offside. And then the goal in the second period that did count on the power, or not on the power play, but the second goal for the Canucks. I thought he had a good game tonight. He made, I think it was Trent Frederick, who he just made look silly on the wall. Just spun, did a little spin, left him in the dust, which was great. But he was like the only one that was super impressive tonight. Lots of shots on goal. I mean, the Canucks have 38 shots? That sounds good, right? But I mean, they didn't score, so it doesn't really matter. And then my biggest plus for this game is Travis Green winning back-to-back games challenges. He had a challenge last game, which he succeeded in. He had the offside challenge this game, which he succeeded in. Bravo, Travis Green, getting the dubs where they don't count. But hey, it was a good effort. On to the minuses. I mean, the main one's penalty kill, right? 1 for 3 on the penalty kill tonight, allowing 2 power play goals to the Boston Bruins, both in the third period, both in crunch time. And I mean, we're talking about crunch time in this game, but crunch time in the season, and this penalty kill still can't get anything going. And nothing has changed still on the penalty kill. They're still basically the worst in the league, and somehow they keep getting worse, right? I remember when they were at like 63%, and we were like, oh, well, they'll even if they do fine, they'll get up to like 70 by the end of the year. But coming into this game, actually, no, this is updated for this game. The Canucks penalty kill is at 62.3%. Still, it's still just atrocious. And it's going to take a lot of kills to get that number back up. Another minus is that they blew a lead. The Canucks don't get leads often. They score the first goal tonight. They score the third goal tonight to get the lead back, and they blew it. So 2 blown leads in this game. The first one, 5.5 minutes in when Bleed scored. The second one, halfway through the third period when Marchand scored. And then they can't get the next one as Pasternak wins it. And, you know, when you're a team that's performing this badly, you need to take those leads and hold on to them. Hold on to them. You know what you don't do when you have a lead? You shouldn't be allowing 42 shots against in a game. And that takes me to my next point. The Canucks allowed 42 shots on goal tonight, 18 of which were in the third period. So in a game that they were up by 1 for the first 8.5 minutes of the third period, and then they were either tied or down a goal in the third period, they had 11 shots of their own, and they allowed 18 against. It just feels like when this team needs to succeed the most, and we've talked about this, I think, in the last like 4 post games. When this team needs shots the most and needs to prevent shots the most, they go on these long runs where they don't get any shots, or they allow a bunch of shots against. We've seen it in games where they're down a goal and they go 9.5 minutes without a shot on goal. In this one, they just allow almost a shot per minute in the third period. And yeah, it's a losing formula. You're not going to be winning games if you're allowing 42 shots on goal. Even if you're getting 38, that's great. But I mean, it's not sustainable. Another minus, 9 out of the last 10 lost, which I mentioned earlier, which is crazy. Their last 10 games, they are 1-8-1, which is just so tragic. This is a team we thought we were going to could be at least in the mix for a playoff spot, and they've won 1 of their last 10. Yikes. And then my last minus here is that Elias Pettersson basically got benched. He wasn't on the ice at the end of this game. The Canucks were down a goal with 3.5 minutes left. They pulled a goalie with the last 90 seconds to go, and Elias Pettersson isn't out there. And that's fine. I don't have a complaint about it because they needed something good to happen, and he hasn't been making anything great happen at all this year. He was playing most of this game with Justin Dowling, which is saying a lot. Elias Pettersson played 13 minutes tonight. He played 3 seconds more than Alex Chason. He played 1.5 minutes more than Jason Dickinson, and the only other people he played more than were Justin Dowling and Vasily Podkolzin. Now, again, I'd like to see Podkolzin's number get up there, but I mean, the Canucks were protecting a lead for about 20 minutes of this game, so it's somewhat okay that Podkolzin maybe didn't get a ton of time there, but still, I'd like to see more from him. Yeah, those are my pluses. Those are my minuses. Again, if you want to talk about we might touch on some of them in your questions, but sort of like the Evander Kane drama and the IMAX Sakaris drama and the Travis Green still being forced to coach when it is publicized that they're like interviewing replacements for him. And he's still the only one that's talking to the media and all this stuff. We'll talk about all that more in depth on Canucks After Dark tomorrow night, 10 p.m. youtube.com/Canucks After Dark. Okay, let's go in to the fun part, your questions. And I ran a poll right before we started, and I asked, are you apathetic? Was just the question, which is basically, do you not really care anymore about the results of these games? Do you not really care about the team, about what's going on? Keep in mind, the people that are watching this post-game show or are listening to it after the fact on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, or just the people who, after a 3-2 loss on a Sunday night, are tuning into a post-game show in general, are the hardcore fans, right? These are the people who, genuinely care a lot about the team. 71% said yes on 100 votes or so. Now, again, I don't 100% believe you guys who said yes, because you are still tuning into this. If you're tuning in just for me, I mean, thank you. But it speaks volumes, right? At least 71 out of the 100 people or so that I just polled said that they're at least losing interest, right? And I mean, why wouldn't you be? The team has won 1 game in the last 10. They're 1-8-1 in the last 10. They are the worst team in the Pacific Division. They are 10 points out of, or I guess technically 9 points out of a playoff spot, but at Colorado would have 4 games in hand. So call it 10 points out of a playoff spot because of Vegas. That is so much ground to make up for a team that has shown no readiness, no willingness to make up that space. This team's not making the playoffs this year. It's probably about a 1% chance, right? So it's not really worth watching these games for the excitement of a playoff team, potentially. So, I mean, it just says a lot in my mind. Okay, let's go to your thoughts, your questions, all of the above. We are going to take a handful tonight. The chat isn't super active. I think lots of people actually, it's quite active. I don't want to, I just was able to scroll really quick. But we'll just pick out some of the more in-depth, longer questions because we do want to wrap up fairly early because it is a Sunday night. The Canucks play again tomorrow against Montreal at 4:30. And I guess we're running it back again tomorrow. We'll see if I want to do this again tomorrow. What do I want to pick up here? Chris Thornycroft saying, these 1-goal losses get more pronounced when you realize how bad special teams are. Yeah, it's true, right? A lot of these Canucks losses, and you can give them at least some credit for them, but it also is a bit of an indictment. So many of these Canucks games are 1-goal games or 2 goals, but with an empty netter involved, right? I mean, we have this game that they win over the Bruins. The game against Columbus on Friday, they lost by 2. The Penguins beat them 4-1, but the Blackhawks game, 1-0. The Jets game, 3-2. The Avalanche game, 4-2. You go back a little bit further, 3-2 loss to the Ducks, 3-2 loss to the Predators, 2-1 loss to the Oilers, 2-1 loss to the Flyers, 3-2 loss to the Wild, right? So many 1-goal games that have been decided by special teams, typically allowing 2 power play goals against or more. And And yeah, I mean, I think it's a much different season if solely the penalty kill was better, right? If this penalty kill is ticking at something like 80% instead of 60, I mean, we're talking about a good handful less goals, right? We're talking about what, maybe 10 less goals this season? 10, maybe even 8 less goals against. Actually, no, it's probably more than that. It's probably more like 10. Let's say 8 for the sake of argument. Well, that's probably 5 more games that go to overtime, right? 5 more points. Maybe they win a couple. Maybe it's 7 more points. And at that point, they're just under a point per game, just under 500. And they're at least still somewhat in the mix. They're like 3 or 4 points back, not 10. But for that to get fixed, the penalty kill needs to get fixed. And it's just, we're 22 games in at this point. We're past the quarter mark. We're a game and a half past the quarter mark of this season. This is what the team is. Samu, I'm not even confident they can take one of Montreal or Ottawa. Yeah, why would you be? I mean, Montreal's getting a whole new executive team basically in the room starting tomorrow. I bet the team plays hard. I bet Montreal plays hard for this new group, right? It probably gives them at least somewhat of a boost. And then Ottawa, I mean, put the Canucks against Ottawa any night. I mean, what? It's a 50-50 on who wins that, especially with the way the Canucks are playing now. Ottawa has won one of their last 10 games. They're on a 5-game losing streak. The Canucks have won one of their last 10 games. They're on a 4-game losing streak. Vancouver and Ottawa are playing very, very similar hockey right now. So yeah, who's to say at that point? Cam saying that they got tickets to see the Canucks in January against Florida. Haven't been to a game since Hank's 1,000th point game. I'm so disheartened. Do I still go? I would go out of spite. Why not? Just go, have a couple beers, enjoy the game, just as a fun night out and focus less on the hockey, I guess. Gmod asking what's going on with IMAC and Sakaris. Just as a sort of brief summary, and again, we'll talk about it more tomorrow night, Canucks After Dark. But basically, IMAC going after Sakaris because Sakaris started this like rumor of there being a rift between Miller and Horvat in the locker room. Travis Green came out and said like that's not a thing. Bo Horvat was sort of joking about it and be like, I guess me and JT got to go work things out, like he said in his press conference. And so Sakaris kind of got called out, and then IMAC called him out for being like, just trying to stir up drama. And then Sakaris called IMAC out for getting on a plane with Francesco or something. It's just a mess. But I think I'm going to try to make Clay take sides tomorrow, which will be fun. Cause I know that he's interviewed, I think both of them before. So it'll be an interesting take. Fangirl asking, what do the Canucks need to do to secure leads? They just need to stop allowing so many shots, so many chances, right? I mean, we look at the expected goals tonight. Expected goals were 2.99 for Boston, 2.55 for Vancouver. Boston scored their 3. The Canucks, if you round down, had 2, right? They just allowed more. They were too lax defensively. Kyle Burroughs getting beat hard, just adds up. What else do we want here? Calvin saying, just want to see them play with excitement and purpose, even if we lose, more fun to watch. And I think there was a little bit of purpose tonight, but there wasn't a lot of excitement, right? Like there wasn't like this team doesn't look to have much skill seemingly, right? Like there's no like flashy plays like we had in sort of the Besser and Pettersson rookie era, or like, even if the Canucks lost, at least something cool happened. We haven't really seen that much. Like there was a Tyler Mott breakaway, but I mean, if that's the most exciting thing to happen in a game, that's not a very high bar. Gmod asking what I think of Green making Pettersson non-existent in the third. I think it's fine. At some point, you got to do something. Just keep trying different things. If nothing's working, you have to change something. And Pettersson hasn't proved that he should be out there at that time. Jeremy saying no pushback from hits from Marchand. Marchand had a really impactful game. He was very physical, and he obviously scored and had an assist and had an assist that didn't count on the empty netter. When it comes back to, sort of pushback and things like that, yeah, there is a level of that. But most of all, you need to score more goals than the other team, and they weren't doing that. Yeah, hits were 28-18 tonight in favor of Boston. I don't usually put too much stock into that. Because usually you don't see it really like dishearten a team, and I don't think that was the case for the Canucks tonight. I don't think they were like frustrated or disheartened by all these hits and it was making them play worse. I think it was just sort of a side story to the game. Kai saying it's wild to me how it's publicly known we're looking for Green's replacement, have looked at multiple candidates, and he just has to go out there and lose games and talk about how they lost. Yeah, at this point, Travis Green is just trying to save face and look good to a future potential employer. It's pretty public that, like you said, the Canucks are looking at other people. It's been leaked multiple times. I mean, yeah, what do you do as Travis Green in that situation, right? You've basically been told, and it's public knowledge, that you aren't going to work for this team soon. Oh, and by the way, you're the only one who ever speaks to media, and you have to go out there after every game. We hear from the GM like once every month or two. We never get any conversations with the owner of the team. Yeah, it's a really unfortunate situation. They just love throwing Travis Green to the wolves, it seems. And again, we'll talk more about that tomorrow night. Kevin saying he had a sense of dread when the 2-1 lead entering the third, they'd find a way to lose. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't that confident in this one going to the third period. Calvin saying, by the way, the Canucks have picks in round 1 and then none until round 5 this year. That's great. That's good. Who needs draft picks, right? Nah, you just need good players that win you 6 out of 22 games so far in the season. What else do we want to grab here? Nathan saying, only problem, the video coach gets the credit for the challenge call wins, not Green. That's partially true, but Green's also looking at the monitor, and Green's made some bad challenges in the past. By the way, it's not like they really mattered tonight. Kai saying at this point, the Canucks need to sell high at the deadline. Value is going to be high for guys like Miller, Horvat, Mott, Halak, and maybe we can get some takers for Hamonic or Pearson. Yeah, Halak was pretty solid tonight. I mean, he allowed 3 goals, but I mean, 42 shots, and he looked pretty good. He had that bleed goal that was bad, that he should have stopped. But the other 2, I mean, the Marchand goal was just a total disaster, right? Pasternak at the post, and then everyone's looking. Halak can't see anything, and then the Pasternak goal is a backdoor feed, right? Can't put too much of that on the goalie. So yeah, Halak could have some value. Tyler Mott is going to have quite a bit of value at the trade deadline for a contender. I could definitely see that. I don't see them trading Horvat at all. And then JT Miller, I definitely see a real market and some high picks maybe getting thrown around the closer we get to the deadline. Calvin saying, on the bright side, Podkolzin looked pretty good out there. Some of his passes didn't connect, but it seems like his teammates just didn't expect them. Yeah, I'm always happy with Podkolzin's game. It feels like every single game. He continues to impress. Niels Hoglander, who plays for the team, saying, I don't care about the outcomes of the games until Travis Green and Jim Benning are gone. Yeah. I don't think even then will you really care about the outcome of the games unless they go on like a 10-game winning streak, because they're just so far out of it at this point. BNB asking why they take the last goal away from the Bruins. It was offside on the zone entry, and the Canucks challenged it to try to at least somehow stay alive in this game. But that's why. The Elder saying, I'll watch every game because I've been watching 45 years and I've been through this before. Yeah, hey, you know what? If you still enjoy it and if you still have fun and you still want to be involved, sure, go for it. And I'm still watching too. But I definitely am not going to hate on anyone who's, I'm not going to say anyone's not like a real fan because they figure, I have better ways to spend 2.5 hours of my day than watching a team lose consistently. So to each your own for everyone. Let's see what else we got. Gerardo asking, are the Canucks the easiest team to play against right now? I still think that honor would go to the Arizona Coyotes. Debut Hunter, when you ask about being apathetic, I am. Do I watch the game still to habit and curiosity? Yes. Am I excited or getting animated anymore? No. This is a really good description of me. Because, I'm looking at, let's see the Pearson goal early on. For at least the first 12, 15 games of the season, I would be excited. I'd do the clap. I'd be like, yes. And then, it would scare people in the house. And I'd be fired up and, I I don't have that anymore. I noticed like Pearson and Garland's goal, I wasn't getting excited. I was like, all right, they scored, and I'd take a note. And that's kind of it, because I don't care about the results that much at this point. So yeah, I think that is a pretty fair description. Left Sock saying they turned down free tickets to the Leafs game because you couldn't be bothered. Oh, you could have sold them. Unless you would have gotten in trouble for selling them. But you could have got decent money from Leafs fans. They're on a bit of a run. What else do we want to grab here? Sam saying, I followed this team for over a decade, and I've never felt so numb when it comes to a loss against the Bruins. I still care about the team, but I'm becoming used to them losing. Yeah. I wasn't like angry when they scored those 2 goals in the third period. I was like, oh, okay. Saw that coming, right? What else do we want here? Kai noting that Elias Pettersson only had 8 minutes of 5-on-5 ice time. That is low. Then saying, he's been struggling and coaching's trying to send a message, but I don't know if not playing him is a solution. Well, I mean, if he's not being productive while he is on the ice, maybe put someone on the ice who has been productive. Maybe try to give a little more ice time to a guy like Connor Garland or JT Miller. JT Miller played 22.5 minutes tonight. Excuse me, because he continues to be one of the only guys who's producing. Thomas with sort of the tough question here. Going forward, what does the best case scenario look like for the Canucks realistically? Realistically, best case scenario is probably that they continue being sort of bad. Everyone gets fired. The team wins the draft lottery, which might not be realistic. Let's be real. But drops 2 spots or less because you can only drop 2 spots now. And that they get really good trade value for assets. I think that's best case scenario. If you're not saying the Canucks win 40 out of the last 58 games or whatever it is, 40 out of the last, I guess, 60 games and make the playoffs. But that's not realistic. Justin saying, do you think you have anything to lose at this rate by going for Kane? I mean, it's the same argument as like the Babcock argument and the like, where I'm at the, I don't want bad people on the team. And I guess, look, he's a really good player. You're getting like a 60, 70 point player, but it's a lot of drama. It's a lot of, and I mean, people say, why not? But in the same vein, why, right? This isn't a team that's close to being a playoff contender. How much does he really add, right? I mean, sure, you get another piece in your top 6. That's great. You still have a penalty kill running at 60% and you still don't have a defense. And I mean, you still can't win a hockey game. Okay, maybe you get a few more points this season because of it, and you finish 6th in the Pacific Division. I mean, why bother? That's my opinion, though. And I can see the argument both ways. If you want to focus on just the hockey player and just his skill set, and you sort of have the argument of separating the art from the artist, so to speak, sure, you can have that opinion. But I just, I think for all of the pushing that Jim Benning has done in the past to create a good character locker room and how much he has preached the character and sort of this Sedin culture, I think then turning heel and going the Evander Kane route kind of goes directly in the opposite direction of all of that. And I think that's all I want to say tonight. I see there's a lot of them, a lot more questions here, but we're 34 minutes in and I'm kind of just done for the night. So thank you guys very much for tuning in. Make sure you're subscribed. Follow me on Twitter at ParkersPucks. You can watch us tomorrow night after the game against the Habs and at 10 p.m. on Canucks After Dark. Make sure you're subscribed to that channel as well. It's linked in the description. Everything's linked in the description. And with that, shout out to our members. Backstage members are, if I can load it up quickly, members, see all. Shout out to Shannon, Terry, Kurt, and Lucas, our backstage members. I appreciate you guys a lot, and all of our VIPs as well. Have a good night. Enjoy the week ahead, and I will see you next time.